Right, thank you. Unlike the county council, not you get zoomed in. It's well, you can get zoomed in actually. Well, I'm not quite sure when it happens, but the microphones are in the ceiling, so all sorts of things be picked up. I welcome everybody, but I'll certainly welcome individuals when they come before people part of the agenda. But first item then really is the apologies for absence. We've got councillors Mark Trent, Mark Warfield, and Brian Yates. But because Miles Trent can't be here, we lose a member of the public, which is his daughter. He used to have to sit in the back suffering, but she used to have headphones on. I don't think he was ever listening to us. Well, not me, anyway.
It's going to be payback.
Dad, actually, I don't think I listened to my dad either, which is bad, I think. Declarations of interest. Anybody got any declarations of interest? We all have an interest in health, obviously, but nothing specific that under the law. And then we got the minutes of the previous meeting, which do we agree them really? Just have to be there. We're never quite sure what we do with them, but you need to support them anyways, don't you? That's okay. Yeah, well, I've taken the risk and signed them before, I can say. Yeah. So the next item is health matters, which is a standard item on the agenda, and I attend the health and care overview and scrutiny committee of the county, as I did yesterday, which is why you haven't got a written report yet from that one. There's one from the previous meeting. But yesterday, just very briefly, yesterday it was the main item. Well, very carefully, other people might be offended, but one of the items was about obesity in children. I know that the task group is looking into that as well now, but obesity in children, that's from the public health director, from Dr. Harling. I was able to mention the Battle of Agincourt, actually, because there was some references. There was relevant. If you look at the video, there's relevance to what I was saying about the state of the country in 1415, but also more recently in 1980 and 1986. I have books there regarding the reports then about obesity in children. My point being, I think I've made it, looked at the video since, is that little progress has been made in one sense, because I think you're up against it with the companies that sell sugar and all the rest of it. There's an analogy made with smoking and the success with reducing smoking. There's problems now with nicotine patches and things that we got called. But that was nationally that smoking was banned indoors, so that was a great help. I think where with obesity or eating cheap, highly processed food is a problem. On the chart that, on the map that Dr. Harling gave us, I'm interested to know that one of you at least would be interested to know that the lower of the levels of obesity in children were 3 wards: Armitage, Danzacre, St John's, and Whittington and Street A. You may find this hard to believe, but the highest ward, with the highest rate of children with obesity was Little Aston and Stonell. That's right, yeah. That's surely worth researching. You can ask a question, but I doubt I'll have the answer.
It's not really a question, Chairman. I mean, I'm old enough to remember the good old days when we weren't risk averse. When we walked to school. I used to walk to school very often. It was over a mile to get to school, a mile to get back. And I used to cycle to school to Rugeley as well. And we were far less risk averse then. I mean, these days, if there's a threat of snow, they close the school. The day before, they say there won't be any school tomorrow. Well, we used to wade through snowdrifts to get to school. And I just think we have to totally reappraise the way that we live. And that's way beyond this overview and scrutiny committee. That is something for national government work programme. We're far too risk averse. You don't see kids out playing in the way, climbing trees and falling out of trees like we used to do. And it's an important lesson in life. You take a risk and sometimes you pay the price. But we have to get back to that. We're far too cosseted. And it doesn't surprise me that Little Aston, where you've got perhaps the wealthiest cohort, are the ones who cosset their children most and don't allow them to go out and play in the way that we used to.
I draw attention to correlation. I can't draw attention to any evidence of habits or anything like that, but I did question that before the meeting. Actually, I thought it was fascinating. actually, on the walking to school is one of the issues there. More exercise for children and walking to school and that sort of thing. But again, it's behaviour and the time taken. But those things are actually important and being looked at, and have your input there. In fact, I was only saying to my grandson earlier at the weekend, why don't you go climb some trees and make bows and arrows like I used to? This, yeah, it's green. And the other thing was, and I've got to be careful here, the primary care, pharmacy, and social prescribing report, which I always send you a link. Always send you a link to these things, and also a bit more information. And there's various issues there. Planning was an interesting issue that came up, because you've got houses, and how does that? And just basically, how can you stop houses if you haven't got the GP capacity? And I've looked into it a little bit so far. I've got to find it. We can do it further, but with regard to education, you've got the numbers. These are the houses. This is the number of pupils you expect. But there isn't such a thing with health and number of houses. So I'm looking into that further. But that was an issue that came up with a few from their district and borough councils. We're having further reports on that, but I will send you information about it. And as I say, the problem being really getting some increase in pharmacy, access to pharmacy, ice and so on, which has been great. I'll be more specific in the report. But there's still a problem with recruiting pharmacists, I understand it. And so GPs, as I think we know. So, but I'll be doing that as a written report, which would make much more sense than my garbled report just. The other thing is the work programme there from the Healthcare and Overview Scrutiny Committee. It's not quite up to date, so it will when they changed it. But the bit on the 23rd of February 2026, there's nothing there on the report you've got in front of you. But in fact, we're looking again at the in a broad term NHS efficiency savings. So that's an ongoing thing. So that will be on that our next scrutiny meeting at the county. So any specific questions or awkward questions, and I'll move on to the next item on the agenda and invite our guests down there when I can find the relevant paper. This is about Burnwood Health Centre. Thanks for coming, and we've got Rachel Galliot, Andy Hadley, and Sarah Jeffrey. You want to introduce yourselves, and we've got the titles here. What your role is, that would be nice. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us today. My name's Rachel Gallio. I'm Chief Medical Officer for the Integrated Care Board across Staffs and Stoke, and now across Telford and Wrekin as well. Just by context, I'm also a GP, so I've worked in this area for over 20 years as well. So that gives a bit of context there. I'll hand over
thanks
to Sarah.
I'm Sarah Jeffrey. I am the Director of Primary Care across Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent Integrated Care Board. I'm also a just down the road resident, not in Lichfield but Rugeley, so know the area quite well as well.
Sorry, you've seen me twice in 1 week. Well,
I have, yes.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Andy.
Hi everyone, Andy Hadley. I'm the Head of Primary Care for Estates and Digital Transformation at the Integrated Care Board, and also a local resident, but in Tamworth, so not quite Lichfield, and I've worked in the area, the NHS, for the past 19 years, predominantly covering South Staffs.
Okay. Well, the reason we invited you, because we have this problem with the lack of this health centre in Burnt, which was promised. I don't really know the history of how far back it goes. I was at the public meetings in 2008, and the Hanwich Hospital was closed, Victoria Hospital closed. There's money left there, and that should have been for 2 health centres in Burntwood. The Greenwood House, Greenwood Centre was only recent, and the one at by the Leisure Centre in Burntwood is yet to be got an application for it yet. So I can go through the details here, but I've sent this to all members about the promises that we've had at this committee in 2023, saying yes, it'll be built by the end of 2020, open at the end of 2025, and now it's further on. Then you've got this problem with the possible losing the community infrastructure levy money of 1.1 million if it's not built by September 2028, which is so far ahead. I just can't get my head around it really. So those are the issues there. If I'm going to say that we invited the county council along as well, and my first freedom information request in September, well, it was my first, but freedom information request in September last year to the county council was the reply I got when asked about the health centre and progress there, what was going on. Thank you for your request for information. The information you've requested is not held by Staffordshire County Council, as it does not relate to a county council function. Please follow the link below for further details of where you may be able to find the information that you're requesting. And that was, didn't take anywhere really. And I realised then I've got to be a bit clever with my freedom of information requests, because I should have known and asked again, but this time I changed it to Staffordshire County Council. In February 2023, a resident of Staffordshire County Council Property Services Department attended a public meeting of local councillors and patients at the GP service that was closing because the ICB wanted to close the temporary 3 times, by the way, and is illegal now because it should have been cleared from the ground. Health centres adjacent to Burwood Leisure Centre. At that meeting, it was again restated that the new replacement for the temporary building health centre would be open in 2025. So my question was, what was the then plan being proposed that would mean the facility would be open by the end of 2025? Was it just for a health centre? Was there extra buildings? And if so, what were they to be? And I did get a response to that, but we'll on to that a little bit later. But what I would like to know from yourselves is what is planned? What is the programme? Is the money there? And I've asked the patient questions as well from the ICB, which I presume you've seen, hopefully. But if you can tell us in your own way how you come back onto your specific questions, if that's okay. Sarah.
So I think what would be helpful, given the history, is that we talk about some of the history, the position now and the position looking forward. So Andy will be able to pick up the detail. So I'm going to ask Andy to just run through that, because it might well answer some of those questions as we go through. And then I would suggest at the end that we have some questions. We're looking around sort of for Andy to give that presentation, and for about half an hour in total around sort of the present, Andy giving the status currently, past, sort of present and future, and then we'll take some questions afterwards. So I'll hand over to Andy to take on.
Thanks, Rachel. Yeah, so as colleagues, some colleagues in the room, we've been working on the programme for a long time, working very closely in collaboration with the Staffordshire County Council. And in the last couple of years, we've got to a point where we've got a formal project board set up, and effectively trying to really move the programme forward with securing, obviously we've had the land secured, and then just getting our project process, our governance in place, and spoke to the subgroup last year to go through some of that detail. And we've been working with the County Council in regards to getting that pre-application process resolved, and appreciate that took some time for that to be completed. We were looking for April last year, and that took a little bit longer than that, and ended up due to the complexity and some of the issues and challenges around the programme, ended up being completed in September. Now, of course, the programme predates that, as you alluded to. It's been a long amount of time that it's been running for. But in terms of where our outline business case has been supported through our own governance, through Midlands Partnership Foundation Trust, we've gone through those stages and looking to move the programme forward from that pre-application into a full application process. So some of the factors that kind of kicked in post the return from Entrust in regards to that pre-application process, we then had some further challenges in regards to what we're looking at in terms of the future. So I think one of the items that I spoke about at the subgroup was around we needed, with the publication of the new 10-year plan and the medium-term plan from a healthcare perspective, there was a and the programme would be going on for quite a bit of time. We wanted to step back and take that review of what was required for the residents in Burntwood, and also what the health service needed from a space perspective. So we worked with the Foundation Trust to ensure that the schedule of accommodation and the space that we were going to be looking to take forward was suitable for the needs of the population and of what future healthcare was going to need, not just for in a couple of years' time, but for many years moving forward also. So that kind of took us to a point. Where we're at currently is we're now working again very closely with the County Council and Trust, and we're pushing forward to try and get a full application process confirmed and in place for the end of May. That isn't confirmed as yet. We're still waiting for confirmation from Entrust that can be delivered. But in terms of where we're trying to, and again, the push from all areas is very much the aim to get that done as soon as possible. We've asked for earlier than that, but in reality, in negotiations, I think we're trying to push for that May date. But it's unfair to obviously hold anybody to that until they've confirmed that will be the case. That of course then gives us the pressure. If that full application is completed by May, then we need to get that process submitted, and then we'll be requiring support from the planning department in Lichfield District Council in terms of the following that planning process. So our programme will have that 12-week timeline, and appreciate that's very difficult in terms of an ask, probably because of the huge workload that will be on planning departments, but in terms of asks that we can try and support to keep us on track with the programme, that was one of the things we wanted to highlight and ask about. Should we be successful in getting that completed, so that will support our delivery moving forward.
Yeah.
I think one of the things I'd just like to say is that it's absolutely within our interest to complete this. You know, our population in Burntwood have been waiting for this. One of our GP practices is in an accommodation that actually isn't really fit for the future. It isn't fit for purpose going forward. And, you know, just for some clarity around the history, and obviously we don't some of this predates probably even when Andy and I worked for the ICB, but I recognise that there was the promise of 2 health centres. One was delivered, but what I gather,
one was delivered many years later.
It was a good 10 years before it got to that stage, and that's great for the population in Burntwood. But our aim is to get this building in the ground, and it's within all of our interests to do that. So, you know, any support that you also offer us with that. Rachel and I met with the local MP recently to have some conversations about this as well, and actually, you know, made the offer to do some more public engagement around this, and, you know, meet with members of the public to kind of talk about what our plan is and how long it's going to take for us to get there. The old accommodation, which was the porter cabin, the temporary accommodation, is still available for health use, and it is currently being used by the services that reside in Burntwood. So that's the GP practice and our local community trust. So they,
without the benefit of planning permission, though. But anybody who's, as far as I'm concerned, anybody's got temporary planning permission, and they get the district council says, "Oh, you've got to demolish it now." I would refer them to this, because it's had planning permission 3 times, temporary planning permission, and at the moment you haven't got planning permission. You shouldn't be there. The building shouldn't be there.
I completely acknowledge that's certainly, you know, one of the pressures in terms of the case for in terms of addressing that need, and again, I know the team have worked closely, and our property services colleagues have worked closely with the council around extending that permission to try and get us through this programme. But I could fully appreciate the temporary, and that is part of our business case in terms of addressing that as we take that further.
Well, I appreciate there's change of personnel and all the rest of it, but we were promised by both the county officer and by representative from yourselves in 2023 at this committee that it would be built, and again, there's a later public meeting, by the way, open at the end of 2025. So I still like to know why it wasn't, why that didn't happen. Yeah, you know, it's precisely know why that didn't happen.
Promises should have been necessarily the right thing to do, because as Andy's already outlined, even until we get to that, he's confirmed a date in May. We can't make a promise about that date in May without confirmation from the relevant parties to ensure that that happens in May. So we couldn't be prepared to sit here today and say to you, by May, this will be in place. We can't make a promise because the relevant people and organisations need to confirm that that will be the case before we can give you that promise.
So what's the planning permission for?
So the planning permission,
As far as I'm concerned, we asked for a health centre. It was cancelled in 2010. It hasn't happened in 2025. I have no confidence, and people I speak to locally, I have no confidence it can happen in 2028 either. So I just want to know, what is the planning application again before, when it does come before the committee?
yeah, so the planning application will focus on that delivery of the healthcare unit. The space will also have some county council space, but I believe it's a care home. And
What's that got to do with the health centre?
it hasn't. I'm just saying the space.
The health centre been delayed because of extra care?
No.
It isn't?
No.
Well,
I don't
like I say, the health centre fits on that land easy without any problem with Sport England. So I don't understand why it can't be done.
So as a joint collaborative scheme in terms of the that progress,
Yeah.
we're looking for that planning application to address that whole space, with taking that feedback from Sport England and leisure facilities. That's been facilitated and resolved now.
We only want a health centre, Andy. We only want a health centre. Not interested in the other stuff. We've got plenty of care homes, and there's always, I'll give more care homes, older population. But we just wanted the health centre promised in 2008, 2010, 2023. I don't understand. What about the retail units? That was going to be retail units as well, wasn't it? I've seen the plans. I know what you've actually got. What's there? I just never think the public don't understand what's happening.
Yeah, and I'm not sure I could comment on retail units myself, but in terms of I think again, what makes the project collaborative and supportive and a way forward for the Burntwood residents is that joint up approach where we've got both health.
Well, are the other buildings then necessary for the funding of the health centre?
It's a single no. In short answer, no. I don't believe there.
So we don't need the other things, then, do we? We want a health centre. You want a health centre, and a lot of people, patients out there want health. We don't need the other stuff, do we? It's not necessary to the health centre being built, is it?
I'm not sure I can answer that question in terms of the care home need and the space on the site. What I would say is it makes it's SEC land by working with the county council, and it's that partnership.
But they insist on these other bits, aren't they? Then, by the sound of it.
This is a really important point, that this is a partnership, and this is around a community partnership, which is absolutely the way forward for the 10-year plan. This is about bringing a number of people together. I absolutely take your point around it's been in the pipeline for a long time, and it predates us being here. We want it as much as you, but there are processes and partners that we have to bring along with this, and because of that, you know, we have to follow process, which is what we're doing. You know, Sarah's already described how, you know, the GP premises currently isn't where it needs to be. So the drive forward from us is absolutely that we want this, but there are a number of factors, given the land, given the partners, given the you know, it's not a unique model that you would bring a sort of community based project, which would include care home, which would include other things into that, which I think would be very beneficial for the local residents. So from our perspective, it is about pushing this forward as fast as we can, but that's does have limitations that come with it. And, you know, we can describe those, and Andy's described those, but this is really, really very important. And certainly as you know, as a local GP and as chief medical officer in this area, this is a really important project that we need to get delivered. So, you know, but we have to make sure we go through that process and bring the partners along, so it is a successful project in its entirety.
Be clear, you're not responsible for the healthcare, extra care building or anything like that. That's nothing to do with you, is that right?
But this is about delivery.
No, I'm asking you if that's nothing to do with then ICB, is it the extra care? Thank you. Not as the retail section. The only thing of interest for yourself is the health centre.
It is, but it's also that fact that it's difficult to take an entire project without seeing it in its totality, so that we make.
But that's the county council decision, isn't it? The county council could say to you, yes, here's the land for the health centre, couldn't it? Well, that's not fair. It's not a fair question for you.
I think it is a fair question. And,
no, I'm just saying.
And it's really important that we don't conflate decisions that we're responsible for with other people's.
Exactly. It's a shame they're not here to actually defend their position. So
we're here to talk about things that we can influence. Yeah. And
that's why you're here.
It's really important that we make that clear, that there are things that we can influence and things that we have to work in partnership with people. And certainly from the things that we can influence, we are doing absolutely all we can. You know, Sarah, Andy, other people in the team are doing everything they can, because it's absolutely within our interest to deliver primary care in a way that is absolutely the top quality, and with the best premises, with the fit for purpose. So be assured from us that we are absolutely pushing in that direction in the areas that we can influence.
No, I understand that. That's what I'm after at this meeting, was the clarity, because that's what we wanted in 2008, 2010.
I understand that, yeah.
I keep mentioning it to you, 2023 and 2024, and now. Did you want to?
Yeah, Chair, just wanted to address the point around council not being in the room. I did engage and have a conversation with the council lead, and because the focus was on the health development, advised that I'd be able to kind of field questions and take any queries back to council should we need to around the specific health programme. But it was felt that we'd both be here to saying the same thing essentially. So I hope that's just some explanation as to in terms of that feedback to the county council.
Yeah, well, that first free information request nothing to do with us, Gov. That's what they had from the county. So again, you know, forgive me for cynicism here, because I've been around so long, and you can all be replaced tomorrow, hopefully in good way, motions and this sort of thing. But things, I know there's change with the primary care trust is what we dealt with the first time, because it's ICB now, and the government can change things again. I'll give you a break now if you like. Anybody got any other questions, please, Colin, and then.
I may be able to give you a question, maybe with the answer this time. We had 3 bits of paper given to us. 2 of them are letters, and one's the minutes of the Buntwood Health Centre Project Board meeting, or a note from that of the 17th of December. So there's a letter from Nicky Robinson, who's the District Council's Policy and Strategy Manager, of the 27th of October, asking for an update on progress. There's also a letter in a similar vein on the 9th of December from Simon Fletcher, Chief Executive. And there aren't any replies to these letters in this pack. So I wonder where those are. Both have been replied to, and I was going to say I'm quite happy to share those replies. If they aren't at hand to officers, they have been replied to. If they had responses, it would have been nice to have them here, because
these are supplied by myself, not by.
The implication for me was that the replies aren't there; they haven't been replied to. So you can understand why that doesn't give us confidence in your ability to deliver.
And why I'd like to address it, make sure you get those replies. So.
Thank you. My second question is about the briefing note of the 17th of December. Halfway down the page, Stage 1 sign off and stage 2 planning revised. First floor plans completed early December. Action, sign off on plans and brief before moving to stage 2 to complete prior to month end. Can you confirm that those have been completed, please?
Yes, and that's now sat within trust in terms of them completing that full planning application for us. So we tend to move from stage 2 to stage 3 of the REBA process.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anne, please.
Yeah, I sort of follow on from that. I thought you've talked about working in partnership, and I guess I'm not a Burntwood councillor, or my history is not as good as that. But the current partnership of actually producing the health centre for the people of Burntwood is then mainly with the county council and Sport England. So I was really going to ask you about the more immediate partnership that the district council's involvement of, and it's two things really, and whether they've complicated or helped in your activities, which is you've had this SIL money for almost a year, or the promise of it for almost a year, and about the same time you've been involved with our very effective planning preparation people in our LATCO, and just wondered whether there's anything that directly that we're connected with. And you mentioned right at the beginning of your presentation that the pre-application process was very complex, and so I just wondered about the role of the district councils with your planning preparation and how that's worked, and also how far the pressures obviously for, you know, this money won't be here forever, how that, you know, so more the district council as a sort of partner and part of your source of income, how that's been working, and whether there's anything we need to be aware of or could help with. Or
Yeah, it's nothing but positive feedback, I think, in terms of the relationship with the district council, I think, over the last few years, in terms of trying to get the building and the programme to this position. And I think that's been, you'll see that referred to in the response letters, because I think one of the letters kind of reads across like we've tried to suggest that there was delays or errors from an LDC perspective, which is not the case at all. We acknowledge the complexities of the programme, and that clearly complexity, you know, leads to time, almost. So but no, we've really appreciated the support and the award of the funding through the SIL process, and the letter around addressing concerns around the programme was helpful, I think, in terms of, again, being clear for us and us being able to respond back to give you that confidence of where we're at in the programme, and that we are really keen to secure that funding and use it for this programme. It's such a key investment, and we were certainly shouting from the rooftops about securing it when we did. It was fantastic. And again, in terms of my ask, in terms of what LDC can influence, is that next stage, that 12-week planning process, and trying to stick to close as that as possible. And that's, you know, that might be an unrealistic ask because of the pressures on the authority as well. But I think, no, we've certainly, the team would not like to insinuate that there's been any difficult relationships or nothing but good engagement. I think hopefully the council would feed that back from our planning leads and our project management team as well.
can I just ask then that the plans they contributed to are for the whole enterprise, not just the health centre, whatever else is on there as well?
I believe so, yeah, and that's the key bit that's moved us forward most recently, in regards to the football pitches, in accommodating that space for leisure space that's being worked through, and kind of moves to the next element.
Thank you. Paul, and then then Whaley, and then Colin.
Yeah, hi. I was just sort of listening to it with interest, and it just sort of strikes me there must be some reason with this project why it's taken so long, because it's the ICB and the PCT or whatever it was before. you're rolling, you've got a capital expenditure budget, you're opening facilities year on year. For some reason, this one has got stuck. And at the same time, you've got a district council with providing funding of £1.5 million. Are there particular challenges? Is there a particular issue with this, whether it's population needs not as high as other areas? Is it the funding? Is it the premises? Is it the partnership with the county? There must be, it just seems to me, there must be something particular with this development that is just blocking it. It's just so where it's got stuck, because I'm sure the ICB is rolling out other units and other facilities on an ongoing basis, but this one for some reason is just.
Honestly, tell you that we're not rolling out one other programme of work going on that has also taken many years to get to that point. So in the whole of Staffordshire, there are only 2 developments currently.
Okay. But then that's this year, and then in previous years there would have been others. Meanwhile, this one's been on the books for coming up for 20 years.
But so did the previous Burntwood one as well. So obviously predates Andy and I, but we know the history because we were in the NHS at the time, so we understood that. And I think the complexities of these kind of partnership models, they all seem to take some time. So I would say that this programme of work is not any different to any other programmes of work that have been delivered in terms of that estates capital, that in health, across the piece in Staffordshire.
And with that, on that partnership working point, is maybe the county council, are they trying to get the whole site developed, the retail and the care home separate, and then rather than do you think that's the mindset of the county council, that it's a project rather than for the whole of the land rather than just the health centre?
I don't think so. We had a development over in Stafford, which happened quite a few years ago. I wasn't involved, but I know about it, and our project lead actually worked on it, didn't he?
Yeah.
Who's working with us at the moment, and it has in it. It's Stafford Health and Wellbeing Centre, if you ever heard of it. It's a huge development that has a dementia nursing home, a GP practice, a pharmacy, has a cafe, a lounge, and it has multiple shops on site. I would suggest that talk was just as challenging and took just as long as this development. And I think it's the complexities that are there every stage. I wonder whether it's worth the next time that a joint venture like this is developed, that actually that some realism is put around based on previous things that have happened in the past. That's what I think anyway. Going forward, there has to be a bit of realism around timescales about big programmes of work like this.
And just as a sign, we and also how complex these are. The other building is in Burton, and that is a scheme that was bid for back in 2017 in terms of securing capital funding from NHS England to get that built for another pressure. That's only kicked off last year as well. So the process for these buildings and to get that kind of that whole scheme of funding and it's really complex. And I think another thing to note in terms of so Sarah touched on the current live buildings, there's only 2 other buildings that I've been involved in the past 6 years, kind of been in this role. In that is Greenwood House, and then we delivered another site in Longton, which were funded again, capital funded through national funding through the Estates and Technology Transformation Fund. Whereas this programme we're looking to secure capital through the county council, and then the ICB will commit to the funding, the kind of the revenue consequences of that building. So that's how committed we are in terms of this isn't something we're waiting for a pot of money to fund. We recognise the need for the building. We're working to build that business case, which makes it more complex because obviously that's a different level of governance and process we have to go through. but hopefully that's a bit of a sign in terms of that, you know, there is a really strong commitment for this scheme to be taken forward. We don't have a part of funding like we have for the 3 other buildings that's enabled it, and the building in total at the moment is forecast to cost 10.6 million for the healthcare property. So there was really, and the costs have grown significantly, and that was just the last estimation, and that, so if that number may grow or may drop, we'll see as we move forward. But hopefully that's a bit of a sign in terms of how the funding flows and how complex and difficult it can be.
Yeah, I get it's complex. So yeah.
Okay, no, thank you.
You know, we've got a joint venture this council for the cinema, and you know, heads together and the funding's raised. But I appreciate it. It seems like it's the county council and UCB. It's just not that partnership.
Well, it's choices. People make choices. If you've got the health centre, you wouldn't have to muck about with the sports field. There'd be no problem with the planning side of things with Sport England. Is it worth me doing a free information request to the PFT to ask where the money went from the closure of Hamwich Hospital and the Victoria Hospital? I mean, that their money was there, you see. Where's it gone is my, yeah.
History of
I
that.
don't know the history.
No, I know. Would you like to know the history if I get a free? Yeah. They tell me, because I mean, they say they're the ones that, you know, you have to go getting the money off them, don't you? Or do you? Where do you get the money from? Where's the budget? Just help me with this one. No, it's not a trick question. Where do you get the money from? Who gives you the money? Apart from the taxpayer, obviously. Then. I'll have to you know, look into that one first. Look, Councillor Howe's got a question. Then
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for giving up your evening to be here tonight for grilling. Appreciate you being here.
hang on. They should pay for the entertainment they get in.
The report refers to a formal progress review in September of this year. For clarity, can you outline what specific evidence or milestones that you'll be using to see whether this project remains deliverable by September 2028?
Yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, I'd probably refer to the REBA stages and where we've got to. I'm happy to take that away and come back with a more kind of comprehensive answer to that, because I don't know offhand, but certainly the full business case and progress to that and will be key, sure. So, but yeah, happy to back an answer to that query.
And the risk sections of the report that I read says that failure to meet the September 28 deadline would result in the withdrawal of the SIL funding. Can you confirm whether any further contingencies exist should this scenario arise?
I suppose if we were to lose the funding, then that would need us to secure funding from the capital route or from another area,
Which would obviously mean further delays again for Burntwood. Last question, I promise. In regards to this anyway, Chair. There's a lot of parties involved, including our council as well. Who is ultimately accountable? The ICB, Staffordshire County Council, or Intrust, would you say? For the delivery, who's ultimately accountable?
For the health centre,
For the delivery of the health
for
centre.
the delivery of the health centre, then I think that falls within the ICB. Would that be fair?
It's the NHS.
Health centre is part of our
Yeah,
remit,
ICB.
absolutely.
That's all from me, Chair. Thank
They
you.
want our help with the county council, don't they? That's what I deduced. Russ, councillor.
Yeah, and I'm quite new to this, so I apologise if the question's a bit naive, but there's kind of two parts to it. You mentioned at the beginning that in the process there was a pause to look at the 10-year plan. Obviously, what worries me is with local government reorganisation and the abolition of the county council and district council, if you're not at a certain point where everything's committed, does that then lead to another delay where the new council reviews and you have a different partner? Because I mean, I can see the various, as you've said, challenges in the partnership might mean that this process will go into the abolition of the county council, and and then you haven't got that partner. So how much is that a risk? And I suppose the second thing is that, you know, from us and the people in Burntwood, they can sometimes see that you are not blaming the county council, but are saying that they're kind of responsible for some delays, and they could be saying that you're responsible. And we don't have anybody who is completely responsible. You're responsible for the health bit, but you can't do the health bit without the other bit. You know, do you know what I mean? So that we're kind of lost. Who, or presumably there isn't somebody who we can go to who has the actual responsibility because it's split. Is that true?
The partnership, it goes back to that partnership, and also, you know, if delays do occur, then we really need to just look at the cause analysis of why that's happened, rather than pointing the finger and going around blaming each other. I'd hate to think that I was sitting in this room and arguing with the county council, the district council, whoever, or MPFT or whoever else, that, you know, it's your fault that this has happened. It's not anyone's fault. It's just you know, the complex nature of the programme itself, and hiccups along the way have meant it's been delayed. And I think we need to ensure that we're still working in partnership. I can't really comment on any changes to local kind of councils, government changes. You know, we're at the moment in the ICB, we're subjected to quite a significant change within the NHS, and we don't know what that's going to mean going forward. So we can't really comment on changes the government and might make.
Just very,
very what you mean, yeah.
Comment on that. I know you're not responsible for it, but is that built into the risks? Because the longer this goes, the more that risk grows. You haven't got the county council as a partner.
And make sure it's on the risk, and we could get some commitment to ensure that partnership model, whatever goes on with any reorganisation, that there's a commitment here to still continue with this programme.
I think in both organisations, it's a key strategic programme and part of our, I think, both plans in terms of, you know, written down plans as well. So subject to whatever changes may happen, of course, it is a risk that could happen, but I think that's still going to need, whoever takes over, it's still going to be a strong strategic programme that needs to be delivered. And I think in terms of where we're at now and being able to keep colleagues updated, you know, we're at a position now where we do have this time, a better, stronger timeline where we have the full application being delivered. There's a commitment in the paper where after each project board will send a briefing paper to colleagues to keep you all up to date in terms of progress. So I would hope that there isn't that vacuum of silence where, you know, we've been working hard to get us to that position is perhaps created.
Could I just add as well around the 10-year plan for health is very much around neighbourhoods, partnerships, and those are, we are in those discussions all the time with our partners around the wider determinants of health, the influence, working with people, working with patients and communities, and so you know, those relationships are very good and strong as we work towards that. And this part of this is going to be developing those continued relationships, regardless of. I mean, we're subject to management of change very frequently. We would,
yes.
yeah. So these things happen, but those relationships remain strong. The direction of travel around the 10-year plan and the development of neighbourhoods and the, you know, part of this would absolutely be part of this. Is about continuing those relationships and making sure that this is delivered in a way that works for the people of Burntwood.
Do you want to come back in?
Yeah, please, just a
You haven't spoken before that.
couple of small things about the paper we got before us. I think you probably got the message that there's general disappointment, to say the least, about how slowly this has been progressing. And the last project board meeting was on the 17th of December. The next project board isn't scheduled until the 11th of February. The one after that is the 8th of April. After that, the 3rd of June, 29th of July, 9th September, 28th of October and 16th of December. Now, clearly you need to give time between meetings for things to happen. But given the impetus for getting things done quickly, don't you think those project board meetings should be happening a little bit more frequently, perhaps?
So alongside the project board meetings is the delivery meetings, where all the business in terms of traction and keeping momentum will happen as well. I don't have those dates, but we have a project manager, and as I've alluded to, we work closely with the county council to continue to press and meet to keep moving us forward. So a lot of the work is happening outside of those boards. It's that assurance and monitoring risks.
It's more of a governance process than anything else to ensure magic happens everywhere else, I'd suggest.
So final question then. I think you said earlier that the stage 1 process had been signed off at the end of December.
Stage 2, I think. Yeah, stage 1.
Stage 1, yeah. At the bottom of the note, it says Entrust to issue update to delivery programme immediately after stage 1 sign off, including delivery deadlines for planning submission. Are those available, please?
Yeah, no, they're not available.
Why not?
We've been chasing Entrust for that information, and that was what I alluded to in terms of at the moment we're working to that May date. We're just waiting for the full details and confirmation of that work programme to be delivered from Entrust at the moment.
It's not inspiring confidence, I'm sorry.
And we're pushing really hard in terms of trying to get that confidence as well.
We point out that the district council keeps referring to April, or you refer to May, but you know, let's not get too much of that.
Yeah,
I thought it was March actually when they were going to give up on the planning, but
and there's some of the conversations in, you know, that's kind of a live update, I suppose I would refer to.
Oh, said Tom. Sorry, Paul wanted. Oh, Tom, and then Paul wanted to come back. Sorry, Tom.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you. I may be permitted to make a glib comment, which I hope you will treat with the contempt it deserves, and will not dignify with an answer. I've got a thing here in 2020 April. A Nightingale hospital was set up in 9 days, and we're talking about years and years for a health centre. It seems a strange dichotomy where something which is absolutely deemed essential can happen almost overnight, and yet something like a health centre in an area of Lichfield District Council can take many, many years. I'm just struggling to understand how we can have this, as I say, this rather strange dichotomy where something can happen immediately and other things seem to be bogged down in a bureaucratic morass where progress is painfully slow and extremely exasperating for the people who one day will benefit from that health centre, but they keep waiting and waiting and waiting. And I think as a local representative, it does rather sadden me that we are bogged down in this process. And as I say, a Nightingale hospital, I know circumstances were very different, a Nightingale hospital, and you haven't got the infrastructure that you need for a permanent building, but that was established in days, and yet we're talking years or even decades, and I think that is quite sad.
I know you said don't
dignify it, yeah.
To say that I absolutely don't disagree with the bureaucracy that is wrapped around everything in this day and age, let's say. And if I go back to the year 2000, 2020, sorry, when we had COVID, and all the governance and the bureaucracy was thrown out of the window and let's just do it. It was absolutely, though COVID was a horrible time for many, many people, it was great to be working during COVID because you could get on and get things done without everything that was wrapped around it. So I don't, these processes are put in place, we have to follow them with, you know, there isn't much that we can do about most of that, unfortunately.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, it's just quite the same, but the temporary building that got planning permission 3 times was in fact a walk-in centre, not a diocese centre because they were just in London, but it was a walk-in centre, and that's all that was. And of course, slowly, eventually, it becomes, you know, you have to. Well, there was GP service in particular that was there and now gone. So things can happen. Or we can come back in there.
Yeah, so the funding roughly, you mentioned 10. There's 1.5 for this. Is the other funding secured, or the funding's got to be raised? Is that right?
Yeah.
And then where does that come from? Because the county council, does that owns the land, does that have funding, or is it an NHS capital fund that comes from? Yeah, where how does that? I suppose what I'm thinking is it's useful to know then who to lobby, whether it's the MP or whether it's the council.
Tell me, you couldn't tell me. No, wouldn't tell me. You couldn't tell me before. If you've tried a different way, Andy can tell you. It'd be well done. Who's got the money? Where does it come from?
In terms of the capital funding that's raised, that the capital funding is raised by the county council, so they have the ability to secure capital, and then that's like put an agreement and some complexities where the NHS then fund that the repay that.
Years.
So when you say it's the county council raise it, is it the county council's capital budget, or they have to sort of bid for through an NHS NHS capital fund, and then for their county?
Yeah, I'm not sure on the technicalities, unfortunately, but effectively they're able to secure public capital from, but I'm not sure in the mechanisms of how that's confirmed. But again, we can get clarity on that.
Yeah.
They're happy to go away and get that.
Once it's been raised by the county council, the NHS will service that.
Yeah.
There's agreements in terms of that lease that are quite complicated, but we've done it before in terms of the Caulfield Centre and how that's been done historically. So.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate your time and the tough questioning that you've had, but you understand that, if you're waiting 18 years for a health centre, there's something wrong. I mean, you mentioned one in Stafford, I think you mentioned one in Burton, but those are recent compared to this. I mean, I've got a picture here of the artist impression of the health centre in 2010, which was a council. So you'll understand our frustrations with that. We will actually have, my view is that we should pursue the county council with regard to some of these questions, like the capital funding and all the rest of it, where that's coming from. I think that's where the problems lie, rather than your good selves. Okay. Things change. This is we mentioned local government review, but I think PCT, ICB, different personnel, all the rest of it. Difficult to sell that idea that please be patient to the residents who can't park at Salters Meadow, and people have difficulty getting there from. But I say thank you very much for probably won't come back. Thank you for attending and answering those questions and being as helpful as you've been. This is appreciated.
Yeah, just to say that we absolutely want it as much as you do, and we will do. There's points of influence, isn't there? There's points of accountability and responsibility, and we will use all of those levers that we've got and are able to do to make this happen as quickly for the residents.
We might be able to help as well.
Pardon?
We might be able to help as well as the scrutiny committee if you need us to ask all. It's applies to within the council where you can get members of the cabinet who are having a problem with something. They can go through us discreetly, but they can go through us to get some progress in some matters. So we're a critical friend. That's what we're for. So
Thanks very much.
Thanks again.
Thank you very much.
Get some more water if that's okay. Out the right way. Just gonna get some water if you don't mind. So.
I think I'll grab a coffee actually, Steve.
Oh, I can't wait a minute. Oh, he's just being proper, I think, and that.
Just following the procedure we have.
Yes, no, I understand. Yeah,
This end.
a bit about procedure slows everybody down. We've got the Young Voices event here, and I'll let Will or whoever Kerry is going first. Just to, can I just say that we obviously we had the briefing document. We have discussed it before as a scrutiny committee, so we're not expecting to spend a lot of time on this. But you know, please don't let it deter you from having your say. Or we're actually interested in the future, particularly now. But leave that with you.
And perhaps if I can lead from a cabinet perspective, Councillor Cox is not here this evening, as you can see, but I think you probably summed it up beautifully, Chair, that you discussed it quite a bit before. Let's not spend too much time on it. I think there was always
His apologies, by the way, Andy. I thanked him for that.
Always an ambition to engage with youth across the district. The primary vehicle of that, obviously, the council, which worked for some time before. So I think it would be fair to say petering off. A revised event was brought forward about the Young Voices event again, which I think was, whilst it was well attended by a number of organisations and people, etc., perhaps wasn't quite the event that we hoped organisationally that it would be. I think there remains there definitely remains the ambition to ensure that our young voices are heard, that we make sure that we're engaging with them. Although I think there's the recommendations here would be that perhaps we go about it in a slightly different way and perhaps put more of a focus on ensuring that when we do go out and consult and want to talk about specific items, that we really make a proactive effort to go and find those voices and not just end up with a self-selecting sample, which we do frequently with any local government consultation, unfortunately. So the recommendations are there at 2 points: review the information set out. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm more than happy for both Will and Kerry to fill in all the blanks as well that I've just left.
I think the way forward, I mean, we always thought it might be difficult, and we can see from later on for the budget response, it's older people that have responded rather than younger people, particularly younger people, but even not so young people have not even responded. So it is difficult, but we're just looking at a way forward, especially now with social media and so on, that better ways of actually communicating, or not better ways, but there might be better ways than doing having a meeting, that sort of thing. But anyway, leave that with you. I'll have you on the list, don't worry. Thank you. So is it? Was that it, or did you want to come in?
Well, no, I was looking frantic.
No, not you. I'm not sure whether you're going to get any support.
It's more. Well, no,
we'll throw in the question.
I was just going to do a quick summary of the
There you
report,
are.
just to say that obviously, as the leader's already mentioned, the committee have reviewed Youth Council previously, and I think you've looked at the planning and feedback from the Young Voices event via briefing paper towards the latter half of last year. And just to say, yeah, at the end, at the request of the committee, we've now pulled together this report in front of you, detailing that preparation and the feedback that we got from the event.
Yeah, thank you. Now I'll get the question. I've got Tom, and then Anne, and then Russ, and then Colin.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a very quick comment, really. 1-4, you have the feedback there. Out of the 11, 8 really enjoyed it, 2 enjoyed it, and 1 wasn't sure. That's pretty good feedback, actually, because essentially not one of those is negative. They're all either very positive or neutral is the one. So I think that's pretty good, actually. And if that was a TripAdvisor, that would come out quite well, I would have thought. So
Expressed as a percentage, look really good.
I'm sorry.
If it's expressed as a percentage, it would look good, particularly good. But
well, that would be 8 out of 11. I think is about just over 72%.
If it's 8 out of 10, I'd be all right. But 8 out of 11.
That's very good indeed. Yeah, so superb. And I'm all for this, actually. I think giving young people an opportunity to voice their opinions is absolutely vital. Not just because the government is talking about allowing 16-year-olds to vote, but I think young people feel as though they don't want to be ignored. They want to be heard. They want to feel not important, but they want to feel as though they belong to the community and they have something to say, and they want a forum in which they can say it and be heard. So I think it's great, actually. I just hope that this is the beginning of a sort of genesis where we can see young people taking a much greater part in community life. So, thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. I think Anna's 5 or 6 questions.
Right, just following on from Tom, really, I thought it looked like a very interesting event. I don't think that we were criticising you at the last discussion for there being too many officers. We were just suggesting it was a shame there weren't more participants. But I think, yeah, it was, and I would think it would be a shame if we were just going to do online consultations for the future. I think, as other people have made the point, but the timescale for organising that event was very short. And I'm going to be in a minority of one as usual, but I also think it's a bit establishment focused. You know, it's through schools and through scouts. And I think, I mean, Councillor Marshall recommended the young farmers last time, and even then, but I'd have thought more sports clubs, more cultural events, more dance classes, etc., etc., or just appealing for interested young people. And I think political nerds, because most people at whatever age do not engage with politics or councils. But I was going to mention, there's a neighbouring West Midlands County Council that I'm not going to name because it'll cause it.
Where is it, roughly?
No, where the leader of the council is 18. Even though we're all in political parties, we probably all complain that we don't have enough young people, but we can all. I think we should contact the Greens, Reform, the Labour Party, the Liberals, the Conservatives, and get some people who would cause a bit of trouble. Not just think, we're very serious about the environment, we want to respond to all these consultations, and have some event before we're all abolished that was more free thinking and engaging and a bit more edgy.
If I bring you in just to mention that the young farmers were on the list of being invited, and if you wanted young farmers and politics together, then at a place I can't mention where I used to have one of my surgeries, they had to clean, the dads had to come in and clean all the footprints which were on the wall and on the ceiling, and it must take a lot of time. So I'm just saying, young farmers.
No dads, no teachers.
They could be anarchists.
Well, that might have really interesting things. Anyway. Just start 8 pennyworth.
You're certainly not in a minority of one, and I think we, as the list there, the youth organisations that were contacted, it wasn't just Scouts, the Lichfield City FC, Chasetown Youth FC, Mama, Midlands Soccer Academy, Young Farmers, that they're all in there. I think we
Young Farmers in there, but
through a long list.
Sports clubs and more.
We'll contact all the local drug dealers next time from that, just to be inclusive. But we've gone
The young ones.
I think we've gone sort of wide. And I think the point about involving people who are already political, I think certainly my steer is always to try and move beyond that, because what we don't want is just the voices of people who are already clued in and linked in to political organisations. It's very easy for us to hear those voices. It's much more difficult for us to hear sort of those slightly raw voices that perhaps we don't particularly want to hear. It is more difficult for us to reach those a lot of the time. Not without trying, I can assure you. Will or Kerry want to add anything more to that?
All I'd add to that is we did try to reach them far and wide, as well as all the organisations listed, including trying to get those better relationships with schools to help push the message out. We did put it on our own social media. I know, again, limited reach, but however, again, trying to appeal to parents. And also we worked internally with the various LDC teams that do have connections into our communities. So, for example, the health and wellbeing programmes that I know we've brought an update to here before. Again, we pushed really strongly via those and used those community contacts to try and tap into the people in our communities that are trusted by young people as well to get the message out. But I appreciate there's always more we can do to try and reach more people, but we did try very hard to reach them far and wide as possible.
Just if I can build on what Kerry said, when we were planning this, we took a lot of advice from other councils that had done similar events. And I used Cornwall Council as an example previously, and one of the big messages they said they'd learned from years of previous experience doing this is that, as Kerry says, when you go via those existing organisations, people have a relationship there already. They know, okay, it's this youth group, musical theatre society, sports group, whatever that I'm involved in. I trust them. I know they're not going to promote this event to me that is nothing to do with me, which again is why we went through those groups, so that they knew it was coming from a trusted source rather than just randomly being approached by the district council, which they might sort of go, hang on a minute, what's this?
Okay. I've got Colin next and then Russ.
Yeah.
No, not just that, Russ. Yeah, I've got Colin and then Paul.
Yeah, I mean, we've, as you said, we debated it at length, but just to echo Anne's point and make it very clear, there was no criticism intended about the number of officers there. It was about there not being enough young people there. And I think if more planning had been involved, at 2 months' notice rather than 1 month's notice, there might have been more young people. I think it was an excellent event. Tom's right. I was lucky enough to be there for the whole day and found it really exciting, and the young people really loved it. And I think it would be really terrible if we then stopped youth engagement altogether. I think we need to continue it more than online. And I'm just wondering, you'll probably know about the new Youth Work Alliance, which has been established for a number of, maybe a month or two now. Connecting with those perhaps as a way of, these are all the agencies that do work with young across the district, from all different sectors, whether that might be another mechanism of reaching out to young people through those agencies.
I think even more directly than that, Councillor Vaughan, I agree with what you're saying. Obviously, we've just recruited 2 apprentices who have been seconded to work directly with Liberty Jamboree at much the coalface of youth work. Clearly, that's not a position we've been in for the council, but now we do have those very specific who are targeted, who are working with youth, which gives us an additional in, if you like. So I think that'll be really helpful. But I think it's welcome, obviously, that you're saying we still need to do, or you'd be supportive of us doing more and working with them, despite what feels like a rather bumpy route getting there.
Okay, thanks again. And Paul, please.
Yeah, just to reinforce, that would be my message. And I've caught up with Andrew Rushton. Obviously, he was there at the event, and he said, like Colin said, he said it was a positive event. So I really urged we need to keep that engagement through going. I know we need to continue to see how we do it and think how we do it and make it more effective. But I think there were some positives about it, and we do need to ensure that youth engagement continues. And if I could just say just one sort of general point, I think something that was really engaged, and I've made this point before, is where those young people who might attend an event like that, they see some tangible benefits. So a youth club, there's talk about youth club, the Youth Alliance that Colin's mentioned. I've had some involvement in that. There's talk about having a youth, trying to get a youth centre going here in the centre of Lichfield. And that came up on part of the feedback from the people. If they saw something like that had moved forward, wow, that really does. That's such a positive way of maintaining engagement. So I think we should keep going with it.
Russ, going to come back. Thank you, Russ.
I didn't make a contribution before.
There was imagine that. Sorry about that.
That's fine. Yeah, I mean, from the feedback I've heard, this is obviously a good event. I suppose, looking from my experience, when I was employed for many years, I worked in a school doing PSE, citizenship, and generally disrupting the timetable to get the kids doing different things was kind of a lot of my role. So and I think that's the way that you need to go. So rather than, I mean, it's quite right that you want to communicate with young people via the youth leaders and the teachers and wherever. but a lot of them, the message won't necessarily get there because of all the other pressures. Actually, I think you would get a much better impression of young people's thoughts by taking this list and gradually going through them and actually going to their meetings or arranging to go into a citizenship event in school. So you know, it might take years to get through all these or longer, but actually you'll be getting real voices and not just some self-selecting ones who will travel somewhere. You'll be getting the voices of the whole of that school group or youth club or sports club or whatever it is. Now, that's obviously difficult to do, and if you're not used to working with young people like that, you know, it needs some sort of structure. But I think overall you would speak to more young people by gradually working through different organisations than trying to bring together a big event. And actually what's important is how many conversations you have and how typical those people you're talking to are of the youth. And I think that is the way to get both of those things. Doesn't mean you shouldn't have an event, and it might be after, you know, after, if it is possible to do this working in that way, and you can say an event coming up, then because of that experience you might get more coming to it. But I think the sense outreach, you might call it, work in these things would be far more beneficial, and certainly much more beneficial than trying to do it online. I think actually there in front, having those direct conversations are much better than
Okay. I'm just following up from Paul was saying, I've got this note down as well, which is, I think about consultation, whether it's with the electors or with young people, they've got to feel that they have been listened to, and ideally some feedback, some action about what you've done. Remember with our school council, governor at school, the first thing they asked for was a swimming pool, and you think, oh, well, yeah, we said we wanted your ideas, but then you've got to try and explain what's realistic. So that's a difficult path, I think, to go down there. But I think what the message is that we still want you to carry on, still want to look at different ways of doing things, and you might pick up something that happens to work. But we appreciate how difficult it was, if you like. We have the same things, I think, with communicating with people. So yeah, thank you for the report, and well, carry on, as it were. Thank you. The next item then is the medium-term financial strategy. Basically, those might be still watching on the video, which is that the budget is, what the future is like, and whether we've got enough money to do what we've said we wanted to do, that sort of thing. It's a comprehensive report. We've got this extra issue, of course, so Cliff, if you like, Cliff Edge possibly, been referred to somewhere in the report, which is the local government review and what happens after that. There'll be some questions on that to you about where we go from there. Councillor Strachan, I know, gave his apologies. He's either doing exams or he's studying for exams, but I think it was because, you know, you've got a 3-year settlement. He didn't want to come and settle. But Anthony, who is independent, of course, and can only do it in an official capacity, has already told me, and I've recorded it, that it was a good thing. But you know, you might want to say a bit about how much shine districts have got compared to other councils. Then that's okay. I'll leave. Doug, is it?
Shall I just kind of frame it and then you can get to the details? Well, as you said, Chair, Councillor Strachan sends his apologies. I think he's studying for exams tonight, but I lose track of when the exams and when the studying is. But he's been leading on this, continued to lead on this. I'm hearing it. Yeah. Obviously, this is the second time the MTFS has been back before ONS, the draft version back in September last year. From here, this then goes on to audit committee before it goes on to cabinet and finally to full council for approval. I think, Chair, you've already highlighted the main sort of the headlines here. Whilst District Council, certainly Lichfield District Council, is slightly worse off in terms of spending power. We are, I'm struggling to use the word better off. We benefit from the certainty of a 3-year settlement, which is to be welcomed, right? And I think we've certainly been asking that and writing to various ministers over the years saying, please can you give us the certainty so that we can do the right thing for our residents? And it's very welcome that that's fine. So although obviously where they give with one hand and take away with the other, it's unlikely that we'll be around in 3 years' time to actually see the benefit of that settlement. So clearly that the cliff edge that you described earlier on is very real. We are unlikely to be able to make any significant expenditure, or at least we'll only be able to make significant expenditure with the approval of a future shadow authority, and ensuring that it's in the best interest of that future shadow authority or unitary, which slightly clips our wings in terms of our ability to invest in the district. However, so that takes us back to this budget. Takes the view that a 1.99% council tax rise allows us to do what we need to do without putting up the maximum council tax. It also is very much focused on what is deliverable in the sort of the short to mid term. There is no point us budgeting today for something that's going to happen in 4 years' time. There just is no point in us doing that. So the budget really is framed around what do we think we can actually achieve in the coming 12, 24 months, and any sort of large capital projects that perhaps were on the horizon. We've really just had to take a pragmatic view and say, well, should we really be budgeting for them if we've no idea whether we're going to be around to implement them? Anthony, is there anything that you want to?
No, I think the only thing I would add is that, which isn't in here, is I think I make reference to the fact that we've taken on responsibility for collecting food waste.
Yes.
And the government haven't been clear in the settlement as to how much money they've actually allocated to each council to deliver that. And
so say that's, as far as I'm concerned, that's normal practice from the governments. We give you the money, they don't tell you where it is, they don't tell you how much it is, but it's in the settlement. But
I think it would be useful.
Right. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. It's not new.
I just think it would be useful to understand whether that cost has been fully reimbursed or whether the local taxpayer is picking up. So Councillor Strachan's asked me, and we've done this, is we've written to our 2 MPs to see if we can get them to find out from MHCLG or HMT exactly how much in the settlement is related to food waste collection, just so we know that information.
Let me know what they say. Right, we're not going to suggest we do the recommendations now, but I just want to draw attention to the recommendations there on page 27. I think the first three items, first 3 paragraphs are the ones. Now I'm going to go through it page by page until we get to the appendices, and then if anybody's got any questions on the appendices, those are before, it'd be great if they could let me know. So if we go through there, page 28 on the background there, and then 3.5 there, about the uncertainty that both Councillor Pullen and Anthony Thomas has referred to. Page 29, 29, please, yeah.
Yeah, I've only got it for my own curiosity, so I apologise. It's number 313, is where it says we only got of sort of allocated pots. We only got 2 out of 4. Yeah. Relative needs, changes to relative needs. And I just wonder, so we got homelessness, rough sleeping and domestic abuse, crisis and resilience. I just want to know what the other 2 were that we didn't get. It's a slightly frivolous, curious.
I was going to say, I think it's more, it's not, it looks like it's all just rolled into one. They're no longer divided out into grants, they're all rolled. Difficult to tell what's gone up and what's gone down because they're all rolled into one grant.
Right.
What I would say, to add to what Councillor Pullen has just said, is that I think the other 2 reflect upper tier services like children and young people,
Right,
I
yeah,
think adult
okay,
social
yeah,
care. So
okay.
it's not that we haven't got,
It's not that we've lost
we
money.
just don't deliver the services.
No, I understand. Thank you. Sorry for the.
Okay. On 314, actually, the third bullet point there, if you could use any different words there to explain what that is, and you've got in bold, which is about, therefore, with this approach, we're at the more negative end of the impact spectrum. Use a different form of English, yeah. You know, one that I understand. You don't have to if you don't want to.
I can have a go if you like. So there's two elements to the way the government allocate the money. There is the spending side and there is the income side. The spending side looks at demand for services, cost of services principally. What the government have done in their formulae this time is they've increased the weighting for things like deprivation. This area doesn't score well in deprivation.
That's the idea, yeah.
And it's all relative to other areas. So we will get less on the spending side. On the income side, we've got quite a good council tax base relatively. So if you imagine our council tax base is around 40,000 Band D properties, you compare that to Tamworth, which is about 20,000. If you raise the council tax by £1, we would generate 40,000, but Tamworth would generate 20,000. So they take that into account in the settlement, and therefore we lose on both sides of that equation. So that's why I say we're at the more negative end of that impact spectrum.
Yeah, I have no idea that's where I was alluding to. And the bottom bullet point there, which you've already referred to, which is the, you know, the government says they're giving us money, but we don't know what.
On food waste collection.
Yeah. Page 30. Got the waste service on 321. Oh, Councillor, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to ask, at 321, it's just a sort of general non-accountant to accountant, Anthony, that we've got some significant earmark releases, reserves being released there, and then later on, the capital expenditure committee count is dropping off because of the leisure centre and the cinema. What's that doing to the sort of balance sheet, the reserves of the council? Is that putting the council in a stronger position, and therefore potentially we do have some more reserves to spend on projects, maybe buying social housing or whatever? Yeah, I just want to understand what that's what's doing, because they seem positive. That seems to be releasing some cash and less spend on projects, leisure centre and cinema. But yeah,
I mean, simplistically, we're taking cash and we're investing it in services and assets. So there's less cash in the bank, but you're getting assets or services. So if you were looking at it on a balance sheet, your assets would be increasing, your cash and your reserves would be reducing. So I think you're always going to have these type of lumpy profiles in a capital programme, especially when you're delivering significant assets like a leisure centre or a cinema. Because most councils will only do a certain amount of that, and you would see a natural reduction in spending later years, unless we then decided that we want to do something else.
Yeah, but you're saying, so with the reserves that are being released, are they being used? Is that cash then being used for providing services rather than there's been a flip over there, rather than those reserves potentially being available to perform more capital expenditure, whatever that might be?
So 489k of that released reserve is going into a second LGA graduate and major projects team capacity in the revenue budget, and the rest of it is going into the capital programme for things like managing estates, the Friary Outer car park works, so that's works to the investment in parks, open spaces, play areas, a grant programme for property frontage. So they're all detailed in paragraph 3.38. So they are investing in, I guess, not some of it's in our own assets, but some of it's in the assets of the local economy to improve. So the car park, increasing car park capacity, they're things that benefit the local economy.
That's helpful. Yeah, I suppose what you've answered the question for me is that it's a bit that's committed rather than those released reserves. They're sitting there, which could be spent on. So they are that funding has been committed.
What I'd say is that because we've got the 3-year settlement, which gives us certainty, that's enables us to have a look at those and say, well, we don't need those anymore. It's come out, the settlement came out better than expected, so let's release those to be invested.
Yeah, thank you.
On page 31, then I've got a question, just Anthony, no 324 and the funding from, sorry, no evening car park charges. If you could just, you've answered this from before, but you could just say where because there's no income from the car parking in the evenings, where the money's come from in the.
I suppose that's.
He got the answer. Was he giving it to you then?
Well,
answer as well. That's right. It's just
the whole point of that line is saying that's what we were budgeting for the car parking charges. A policy decision was made to cease car parking charges. We just need to recognise in accounts that what was previously budgeted for is no longer available, and whilst it's not a direct cost, it does remove it out of the previous MTFS. So I suppose it's just a belt and braces for, and people are clear and transparent about what the implications for the budget are. Would you like to add anything else?
That's not all I was going to say. Is that there was a series of budgets that, when we reviewed, we believe that could be deprioritised or redirected to this priority. So there was an element of the climate change budget. There's an element of the policy and strategy budget. There was some income contingency. We had savings from internal audit from the new arrangement with the outsourcing, and we've got extra treasury management income. So we redirected that so it had no impact on the overall budget.
Thank you. Colin.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a specific question, but it's just a general point, both on revenue and capital. So I think it's an appropriate time as we're on review to talk about that at this stage. Just to set a context, now that we're in an overall control council rather than one administration being able to charge ahead and do whatever they like, have to be discussions behind the scenes about other options that minority groups or smaller groups might want to see forward. Now, as a Labour group, we've been with the Lib Dems in discussions with Councillor Strachan, and also I think Anthony was included into these discussions as well, about some issues. I noticed on the capital side, around £750,000 has been allocated to social housing. We're looking for £1 million or maybe £2 million again, which we had last time. And I just want to see if we can push the envelope on that a bit. But looking at the revenue side, there was a few things. One was, I think, £50,000 for, because Councillor Strachan in an email has said that it may appear somewhere in here, but it's not clear where it appears. So I think he's out the questions. 50,000 for the community champions employed by Casey's, the citizens advice for South East Staffordshire.
I'm going to just declare an interest to talk about citizen advice.
And also the food bank. And also some money for community transport, I think 50,000 again for continuing that. And also some funding, seed funding to investigate the ability of developing a youth centre or a youth hub, something we talked about just a few minutes ago. And there's also the possibility of some capital funding again for to help with the sports pitches, which we talked about earlier in terms of the Burntwood Leisure Centre. I just wonder whether those are appearing here or whether we need to then, if they're not here, we would be aiming to put motions at full council to get them included. So just for clarity on that too.
I was going to say, I think that's a really useful point in terms of how we move through the process in a no overall control council. Ultimately, the budget that will be put before council will be a document that will be recommended by cabinet to full council. Clearly, before that date, there's discussions to be had and there's conversations to be had. But the MTFS is a policy decision by the cabinet. At which point, clearly, amendments can be made and motions can be approved or rejected. So I think whilst we always want to work as collegiately as possible, make sure it comes through M&S, make sure it goes through all the right processes. Ultimately, if there is a difference of policy position, that'd be something that needs to be determined at a full council meeting, rather than sort of guaranteeing that it gets inserted into a budget before it arrives there.
I'm very happy to take these forward at full council, as I'm sure you know.
And
I'm trying
suggesting
I'm trying to get to a help position, because certainly in Councillor Strachan's email, he indicated that all of the things we were asking for, with one exception, which was about the funding for the sports club at to help the Buntwood logjam, the Buntwood Health Centre, would appear to you, but perhaps under heading that I didn't recognise. So I'd just like clarity on that, whether that is the case or whether that's not the case.
So they don't appear in this document. I'd need to follow that up with Councillor Strachan to see where that's at.
Or they may appear, that may be described in a different way that I don't recognise.
I personally don't
think they're in there.
think they're in there at the moment. But as Councillor Pullins, this is the first stage. There are a couple of stages we can still make amendments. Like happened last year, an alternative route for other groups to do alternative budgets as well. So
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, certainly, I mean, I don't think we'd want to go to that extent this year, because of the cliff edge that we're facing ultimately. But I think we would like some movement on those issues, and we will bring motions to full council if necessary. But if we can agree that
It is scrutiny we do,
much easier.
lobbying rather than scrutinising, I think,
Right.
at this stage now, I think, but certainly the leader has heard you. Tom?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, my synapses started sparking furiously when I heard the words changes to the climate change.
I thought you'd be jumping up and down saying great.
I'm just wondering what changes those would be, please, to the climate change budget, whether they would be negative or positive.
We're buying everyone an electric car, Tom.
You what, sorry?
We're buying everyone an electric car.
Tom's already got one.
Banning anyone from selling.
You've been taking a leap out of Ed Miliband.
I think what Anthony Thomas was talking to was about where the car parking and where the budget line had come from, and saying where we'd been able to find money from, and there was a line in the climate change budget that has.
Sorry, so would that take away money from the climate change budget, or would it add money?
No, he said take away.
It would take away. Okay, my synapses have started to cool down again now.
Thank you. Imagine an opposite effect is happening elsewhere around the table.
Thank you very much.
Page 32. But just on the cinema development there, it's a simple question I want to ask, which is about the issues of the builders. But I just want to, is there any delay in progress? Is that still continuing? It's just that simple question. I want to know if there's any delay.
Your arms with that stretch there, Councillor Norman.
Well, it may not believe it's a genuine question, but if there was a delay or not, or
so
it affects the budget, and that's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah, so from a budgetary perspective, there's no impact at all.
That's really all I wanted to know, to be honest. Just also, and on page 53, the appendix B, there's a reference there as well.
Something else on page 32.
Yeah.
It's about the amount allocated to community asset transfer, which seemed quite modest, really, given that there might be quite, more community. Was it 50,000 or something like that? Whether, whether.
Yeah, it's 100,000.
Enthusiasm for it,
Yeah.
and whether that's realistic.
If we exclude the value of the assets themselves, I mean,
And then it was about.
I think our approach to community asset transfer is that it's not us doing all the heavy lifting on it, and I think we'd seek to work with anyone who wants an asset transferred to them, and we'd probably seek for them to cover some of their own legal costs as well. So and I think that sets us in a good stead. If someone's unwilling to come to the table and say, well, yes, we will bear, then actually is that the right thing for us to do in the first place? If it's just a sort of a spoon feeding exercise, so I'm comfortable with that. So
well, it's not all. I mean, if that wasn't enough, they can always come back to council to get extra money if it was warranted.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to page 33 then. I just on 3.31 reference there to the local government review, and the particular bit here, which is single will be moved, harmonising it into a single council tax rate for each new authority. The approach to setting the council tax rate is still to be decided. I think on our work programme, as far as I'm concerned, we need to have this on every meeting, the local government review, and then updates that we can get on this. Any news when this might happen, or any clues further on the
Is that enough, Chair?
the approach, the question of approach? You don't know.
So
Nothing new since.
as well. So in terms of we're still thinking March. Are we thinking that we're going to get an indication? March or April?
So, yeah, government has indicated that they will go out to consult, I think, on the 5th of February for about 7 weeks.
Yeah.
7 weeks. Then we'll get a minded to. That'll be the first next.
That part of the time. And what other events our information is, it's the only reason I see these trade magazines and things. They're still around, I think, aren't they? Just the graph at the bottom there. I'll put a line down there after 2028, where the blue line that's moving away from the orange line there. And there's quite a few of those graphs in there. I'll just mention that. I haven't got any questions. Page 34. Colin, please.
Yeah. I mean, I've already noted the 742,000 for social housing, which I commend. But I also notice 75,000 for pedestrianisation improvements. I just wonder what they are. They're certainly needed, aren't they? Because it's not exactly working.
Sorry, was that well, I'd firstly like to take issue with your point that it's not working. I think overwhelming majority of businesses and residents would fully welcome it. I know that one of our reform councillors is against it, and but
well, I'm totally in favour of it. Just for clarity, we don't have pedestrianisation properly.
there's some additional sort of hardware and not maintenance. There's some additional hardware and hard landscaping that needs to go in, just to help cover off some additional routes in and out, to make sure that some cars are in and out and some routes that they shouldn't be. So make sure move it, as you say.
Okay, thank you. Page 35. The reference there and the third bullet point of the additional £742,000 capital investment into the socially rented housing, in addition to the 2 million approved last year. Draw attention to that. Page 36. Page 37. Page 38 there. This is interesting, the corporate fees and charges policy, and then the consultation there. I thought it was interesting there. Respondent profile was skewed towards older age groups, with 43.4% age 65 or over. This is, I think I blame the triple lock for that. I think people my age and so on, they seem to be but there was good at 98% of responses from residents, and I thought it was good that it was the highest number yet, 1,374 responses that were received. So congratulations there, that improvement, I have to say. Page 39, if nobody's got any questions. 40, 41, and then 42. Then you got the appendices, some appendix A there on page 43 there, the settlement there, the last 3 years, and the difference for shire districts and shire counties and so on. Unitary authorities, where we'll be a massive increase there, presumably. Am I misreading that? Anyway, draw attention to those charts. Quickly go through the appendices. Have we got anything on any of the appendices? I have somewhere. I'm gonna see with the red ink on there where it is. Yeah, on page 57 actually of a current investment in property. I didn't quite follow this. If you could just help me with this. 6.1, the council owns a number of properties providing an income return. And then you've got the historic costs, and then you've got the net book value. You just help me with that, just my ignorance.
Yeah, you definitely can do this one because I never understand it.
So the two charts, historic,
Make sure that Doug can hear you then.
the historic cost is basically how much did we pay for them when we bought them. Then the net book value is, well, what does a valuer think they're currently worth? And so it gives you an idea of, obviously with retail, how much the value is reduced. A valuer will use income streams to value these, so it probably reflects the challenge environment retail operating in, the fact that they probably don't pay as much in rent now as when we bought them.
All right. Does the valuer ever help? I'm sure the valuer helps local government.
I'm not,
Unlike the free market, you know.
I'm not sure that's their role. I think they're there to help us understand the value of the assets.
They stop us charging what we want, then, don't they? Can't read the numbers out now. Page numbers. If anybody's got anything on any of the appendices.
Page 66, I've got a question.
Oh, well, nearly there. Thank you. Good. Yeah, 66, and it's appendix C. The detail.
Yeah. So, DFGs. I know last year, because I had, they ran out. Yeah, the budget was constrained, and therefore, by I think halfway through the year there was no further budget. And then, so this year our budget is 1 million, 1.1 compared to 2. Yeah. So, are we facing the same constraint this year? And because this is a central government, isn't it, that we then distribute? So yeah, could you just
So this money is allocated through the Better Care Fund. Now, this allocation is subject to a review in the same way like our funding was, and we haven't seen the results of that, but we've seen some projections that one of our funding advisors has done. And because, do you remember I mentioned about deprivation and demand previously? The indications are we will get less funding under the new formula if it's implemented in the way it was discussed. So at this point in time, we assumed we get the level that we currently get in that grant. I think it might be slightly lower. Until we know what that allocation is, we won't update that. But let's just say it comes out better than that. We will increase the budget and pay out whatever the grant level will be. But I've not seen anything from the government concluding that review and telling us how much money we will get as yet.
Yeah, because it would be self-funding, yeah. So it wouldn't have to take out of reserves or. And then just, I suppose, a question, because I know last year it did run out, didn't it? By about sort of September or whenever it was. Yeah. As a council, we could make a policy decision to top that up ourselves.
I think so. We absolutely could. You're right. That is an option available to us. I think when we talk about it running out instead of September, October, we've become a bit of a victim of our own success there. In the previous years, and it's well rehearsed, we were never able to spend it. So you could say, oh well, we always had some left in the budget at the end of the year, and now we're spending it by September. That's a good thing. Like, it's a really positive thing that more people are being able to stay in their own homes for longer because we're getting that money out and getting it into the community. That could be a policy decision. I just think it's a really difficult policy position to take, because where do you stop? And actually, does that then start driving perverse behaviour in that, well, if we actually dragged it out and slowed it out, profiled it better over a 12-month period, would you need to top that budget up? So I think we just need to be cautious about what sort of behaviours that would end up driving with budgetary pots. You're right, it always remains an option to top it up.
I suppose it's a period of time people would have to wait for works to be done, funded by DFG. If that becomes an unacceptable wait, then as a policy decision, something else could.
If you look at how long people are waiting for their DFG grants to be completed, it's halved in the last 18 months. So it's a positive case. I don't think people are waiting any longer because the money's not there.
Okay. I've only got a question on Appendix F, so that's on page 80. Yeah, nobody's got anything in between.
Yeah. Sorry, I mean, probably the sort of the questions, a comment really on Appendix D and C for that matter. I think commending our Chief Finance Officer, Section 151 Officer, for the terrific work he does in setting this out, making it very clear and coming along to explain it to us in words that we can understand. So I think important.
Well, second attempt in some cases.
I didn't see carried away.
Oh, me, I'm talking about me, actually, not necessarily anybody else. But it, I just wanted to praise him. It will affect your budget. Well, we're just on page 80 there on the budget consultation itself, and figures there. It's interesting. I mean, Bourne Vale, there are only 3 responses, and so on. Some people are all saying it's, well, I'm surprised. Colton the River. You've got to be careful of the correlation. You think, oh, the further away from the offices, the less likely they are to be involved. But I just mentioned it only because that's useful information for other parts of the council on communicating and how trying to find out why people are less involved in that. I've got a theory. I haven't got any suggestions, but I think it's worth looking further into that. Not necessarily with the budget, but other parts on the community involvement and so on, to look further into that to find out why that might be. We could just be happy and that's why they didn't bother responding, but I'm not sure. Yeah,
I was going to comment actually, because on here it says.
Did you respond? Did you one of these? You one of these? It's gone.
So I'm going to ask about 65 and over, because that's quite a large age gap, isn't it? And I'm sure over 70s, 80s, they still use a computer as well. But then the other age gaps are quite narrow. Is that the reason why? I think it'd be interesting to look at if we could narrow maybe 65 and over age gap to like maybe in 10s or 15s, then that'd be really interesting. Why don't we just have over 65 this conversation?
Yeah. The longer we're living longer. Yeah, it just tends to. I mean, it's you get that on the website. Choices over 65 after that, they're not interested. Yeah,
It's something we can look at. I don't know whether we've logged in age groups above that in this, but it's something we can look at, because the reason we've collected it in this way is I think this committee made comments previously about more qualitative information. So we've taken that on board, and when Lauren's designed the questionnaire, she's built more qualitative type questions.
Yes.
So you can get this type of information.
okay, well,
So should we not pay
base.
attention to the fact that the only line item on the responses where members of the public feel that we should reduce rather than protect or increase is the cost for all local councillors?
Yeah.
I haven't seen that, but it's always been as long as I've been around. Yeah, yeah.
Can I just say on the figures of people who responded, it doesn't take account that some boards, it's the sort of percentage of the whole amount, isn't it? It's not the percentage. So Bourne Vale, it's not the percentage of the ward, it's that Stowe, 7.7% of the total in. So Bourne Vale, it's a bit unfair to Bourne Vale, because it's a bit
Only 3 billion.
long. Yeah, you know, they're smaller.
Yeah, well, okay. Good point. Yes, Russ.
Yeah, just briefly, I mean, what you were saying, that there's only one area where people say about reducing. I mean, it seems very consistent and very strongly to protect what we're doing rather than increase or decrease. And is that to do with the way the questions are asked, or is that people actually just don't want any change? And I think, you know, it could be interpreted either way, but it is quite interesting that consistently over a whole range of different types of services, that comes out very strongly.
I think there's probably a mix there, isn't there, of people enjoying the status quo, and also perhaps, and this is something I know we struggle with budget consultations and all often, is actually describing or highlighting what a service actually does in just a few sentences. It's incredibly difficult, because a lot of our services, residents just simply won't have engaged with, or if they have, they're unaware that they're engaging with them, because we call it something else. That's a really difficult one for us to.
I remember the county where you spend a whole day with people and go through them the whole. That's rather difficult. But if you have a particular section scientifically sample and then spend a whole day with them, that's always more interesting. But they would then spend more than we thought they would agree to. But this is what it is, and there has been more responses. So I appreciate the report. Just getting back to the recommendations, I think the only thing we can say is that we've made points, we've asked lots of questions, and obviously because it's budget time, those suggestions or other things are pretty left to full council, as been mentioned. But again, appreciate, I'll certainly echo Colin's. So you always have confidence in this budget. This is the thing. It was confidence in Anthony's report and his staff prepared to the leader of the council as well. I'll say that. So, thank you for that. Thanks for your time. It's last item then, no, not last item, the last item, because it was the work programme. It's the Leisure Services update. I don't know whether Simon, Doug, or either, both are going to then tip. The recommendation is that the committee reviews and comments on the progress of leisure services.
Brilliant. Thank you, Chair.
There's an implication there, it's progress, so yeah, we're on the back foot already.
Exactly. And Councillor Smith, again, sends his apologies. I'm sure he sends you his regards.
I sent him a response, by the way. I said, "It's any new sports when you're on holiday." Yeah, keep with yourself.
I'm going to ask for Claire, but on the committee. Yeah. We'll see when he comes back from Jamaica. Yes, this is a update report on leisure services, and it really is a blend of narrative and data from the time that leisure was outsourced to Freedom Leisure a number of years ago. The reason and the context behind us bringing that back in-house as we emerge from COVID, and also the narrative around the closure of Friary Grange and the opening of Lichfield Leisure Centre. Obviously, I'll say obviously, it's not obvious. My aspiration is for us to have some very, very good leisure services in the district to cover off Lichfield and Burntwood, but also that they're sustainable as well. We see all around the country, leisure centres require heavy subsidies. Sometimes they close and don't reopen. Very few councils are building new leisure centres up and down the country. Part of that is that sustainability piece. They've got to be able to operate without a subsidy. They've got to be commercial, whilst also remembering that they are there as civic amenities, and that the barriers can't, particularly cost barriers, can't be too high, because they're there for the people who perhaps can't afford or don't want to go and spend their money at Lloyd or any other membership clubs, which, and my daughter joined one the other week, actually. I couldn't believe how flipping expensive they are. So this takes us kind of a blend really of narrative and data, and points towards the future of leisure services district to a point where we will be a self-sustaining and sustainable provider of leisure services in the district for the benefit of our residents. And I should always tack on there, as I try and always do, social isolation and physical activity. Those two things by themselves, and we had the health people here earlier on, if we can reduce social isolation and improve physical activity, the weight that takes off the NHS is absolutely enormous. I firmly believe that we as a district council have a role to play in that, not just through physical buildings that we provide for leisure, but also all of the other range of activities that we provide as well, and our parks, of course. Simon, was there anything you wanted to add on to that?
Thank you, Chair. Not very much really, other than to say hopefully the report gives the committee a sense of the changed ethos which LWM is taking to the provision of our leisure activities. Very clear community over commercial imperative, and Chair, how the council's continued investment in leisure is creating a modern, safe, inclusive and affordable leisure offering for residents, which is moving its way towards washing its face, hopefully during the next financial year 26-27.
Okay. I'll go through page if that's okay. 87, that's the first page. Page 87.
Well, it was just really a general point, if I may.
Getting in early, aren't you?
And on basically, I think congratulations are in order for those people who've been responsible for delivering the leisure centre. So I think, as you pointed out, not very many councils up and down the country have been opening leisure centres. So I don't wish to single out anybody in particular, that would be invidious, but I think a lot of people have worked very, very hard to deliver that. And in the current climate of rising costs, etc., it's quite an achievement to have done that, and actually done it very quickly as well. I think it's opened up sooner than a lot of people expected. If I have one complaint, and this is coming to me secondhand from someone I was speaking with the other day, I haven't been swimming for years and years, but apparently people who swim, they are slightly complaining about the fact there is limited access for the general public, because I think this pool is used not predominantly, but largely for schools and education. And I can't knock that, because I learned to swim when I was at school, and I think it's a vitally important attribute to carry forward into adult life, is to be able to swim, of course. But it does seem as though there is perhaps, according to the source that I was speaking with, limited access for the general public. So that's not really a complaint. It's just an acknowledgement that there are some people who feel it could be better.
Yeah, if I may, through you, Councillor Marshall, I think that's a perfectly fair challenge. I think the flip side of that is the more public pool time we make available, the less time there is available for schools, and it unfortunately is a finite space within a seemingly infinite amount of people who want to use it. I think, particularly as we bed in, there of course will be changes that happen to try and accommodate that. But yeah, it's a point that's already been noted.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Darren.
Clearly, just in my school, which was in Staffordshire, by the way, no, is that I couldn't actually swim. I did like diving, so I used to dive in and try and look like I could swim as I struggled to get to the side without the teacher noticing. But don't advise it, by the way. Never got the right badge. Page 87 done that. Oh,
I've just
87.
but very quickly, we get the comment about Councillor Marshall's comment. I understand this frustration about people being able to at different times, but having lived in different places and used different leisure centres, I was actually amazed at how much public swimming there was, because a lot of others you have to be there before 8 in the morning or after 9 in the evening, and actually there are slots in the day. So while it might not suit everyone, I actually was very pleased to see that, and I'd like to put on record.
Okay, well, I've given up on the page numbers. I know that Councillor Leong has a question, a specific question.
I've got 3 questions.
3 questions. Oh, give me time to.
It's really positive. I really like what Burntwood Leisure Centre. The equipment's really good. I can see it's really modern, and the label there. I want to ask about the climbing wall. So that's one of my concerns. I've mentioned that before, but I don't know that other committee members would know about that. It looks really good, the climbing wall, but it's just access to the climbing wall. It seems to be quite difficult, and also the pricing, and you're quite limited on time. If you could elaborate on that.
Well, I think utilisation of the climbing wall is a challenge, and that's been noted previously. Simon will now tell us all the things he's doing to rectify that.
Thank you. I absolutely agree. Where we chose a location that it would work in the leisure centre in Burntwood, because of the high ceilings and things like that. But it means that we have to clear it with the sports hall, and the sports hall is incredibly popular, used by schools, used by other groups as well. We struggled, to be honest, in terms of the marketing of it, and to get enough interest in it, I suppose, to warrant us moving other activities on. But that is an absolute focus for this current calendar year as well. We recognise that it's an asset that is underutilised. It's a wonderful asset as well, which will hopefully bring more people to want to try sports where otherwise they wouldn't be interested. So I take the point on board on that one, and we are actively looking at it. I'd like to come back in 6 months' time and tell you what we've done about it.
So the gym pass, there's a set fee, but for those who can't afford even, I know there's different levels. For those who can't afford that pricing after monthly, whether it's swim pass or gym, is there anything we're looking to help those, just to motivate the community to get more active, to get fit?
Well, yes, but hugely caveated, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, thank you, Chair. So we have, I think we advertise our membership fee as £46, I think, this year. But actually the average yield, so the average spend by individual users is actually £28, £29. So there is an array of different subsidies and options that we provide for different categories in different parts of the community. But you're right, at some point we do have to say to certain people, that's what we need you to pay. Where we've got members who come to us and explain that they're struggling financially, then we will try to work with them to make it more affordable. What we can't do, given the imperative, the objective that's been set to me, and I'm wearing my LWM hat on now, not my council hat on, is to see that our leisure services wash their faces, not that they make a profit, but that they wash their face, and so that they're not being subsidised for parts of the council budget.
One final question is, so when Norman mentioned about there's lots of health issues in districts, how can the leisure service work with these these health issues, make our district more active, more healthy and independent?
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean,
projects on that one.
And Simon will help me with some of the detail on this, I'm sure, but I think this is one of the things that I'm most proud of that we already do, and I guess a lot of us wouldn't see it on a day-to-day basis, but certainly through our Active Lichfield programme, through Saz Turner, who leads on that, does a tremendous work of getting out into the community, not just in the leisure centres, in the sort of build venues, but also meeting young people exactly where they are, and that's that's not just about physical health, that is about mental health as well, particularly vulnerable, getting them into places of safety and making sure that they'll be able to form friendships there. I know that there's a whole range of activities we provide over an age range as well, so we do Healthy Hearts class. There's all sorts of things that we're working with. We work with, I don't think I'd go as far to call it social prescribing, although it could probably be described as that. We work with GPs, we work with the NHS to get people, if they're being prescribed medication for low-level anxiety or depression, well, actually, how can we give them? Maybe we'll give them a gym pass for a month, and it has turned, it has genuinely turned people's lives around, not by coming up with a sort of an all singing, all dancing policy on it, but by having really good officers on the ground who identify people who could benefit from physical activity and working closely with them to make sure that happens.
So could we, because I haven't really seen this on literally social media news, could we put something about that, like for those who need help with health, or whether it's physically or mentally, that they can access these? It's not always on the social media, but see.
So I don't think we'd make that offer direct to the public, but we'd definitely work with GPs, with health professionals, to make sure that people who are already being referred for those issues or coming in for those sorts of issues will be picked up, and the GPs know that they can speak to us to make that offer available to them.
But for something like Active Lichfield, they've got classes for the elderly or for certain girl.
Yeah, okay, sorry, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Oh, it's and that's really helpful feedback, actually, because I see it all the time, because I suppose I'm looking out for it, but yeah, that's really helpful feedback.
Be really good for that, and let people know, I can get active by this way. I know what that's going on.
Yeah, that's really helpful feedback. Yes, we have, absolutely. Challenge it to be on for that. Yeah, good. Thank you.
Well, I can tell by your body language you're going to have eventually. I'm looking at you, Welly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've used Brentwood Leisure Centre ever since I was a child, because I've lived in Brentwood all my life, and it truly is a pillar of the community. I was there on Sunday with my children swimming. What I really like about it is that my children have swimming lessons there, and because they have swimming lessons there, when they go swimming on the weekend, they don't pay anything. There's no charge. I hope that is correct. I'm not just I'm not just getting away with something, but that's what. Yeah, which is absolutely fantastic. It was really, really busy on Sunday. I was surprised to find out, because I've not been to the Lichfield Leisure Centre yet. I was very surprised to find out by residents of Lichfield who were in Burntwood Leisure Centre swimming that there's no the baby pool, the child's pool. There's not one in Lichfield. I think that could be a good investment in the future. Another thing that happened on Sunday was I watched a poor dad absolutely fill a locker with all his stuff and his kids' stuff for it not to lock. So it wasn't working for him. How often do we maintain those lockers? Because I think it would be a good idea to obviously.
You just touched on wet side changing rooms, Whaley, I think.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And there's a line, I think there's a line in the budget to fix that, isn't there?
Yeah, there is, Chair. Burntwood Wetside lets us down massively. That's the only thing that we get criticism and complaints about in Burntwood. So there is a budget of just over £500,000. We are about to award the contract for that. So I expect the work to start to replace the Wetside in Burntwood before the end of this current financial year.
So it's a replacement rather than a refurbishment.
Full refurbishment. It'll either look almost identical to the new Lichfield Wetside. I think we call it a village, don't we, instead of a changing room for some reason, or very similar to that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Paul.
Yeah. So just to comment on a positive thing about the membership at the new Leisure Centre. That's a positive number to see. And then I just wanted to also just talk a bit more about that community engagement point, especially with the new Leisure Centre. I think that's really important. It's really important that it's a centre for everybody in the community, in particular those that don't access leisure regularly, maybe people from a disadvantaged backgrounds. With the taster sessions, are we increasing that as now the new leisure centres open up, whether it's through Active Lichfield or other group? Yeah, is that just interesting to know? Because I think it's really important to do that at this stage, so that we're getting the message out that leisure is good. There's a new facility, and also it is a centre for everyone in the district.
Yeah, go on. Yeah.
Chair. So yeah, this month we've been doing an incredible number of taster sessions, walking people around the centre and things. And as you say, Councillor, it's reflected in the membership increase as well. We set a target of 400 new members permanently in Lichfield before the end of March. We're on 500 today, I think, net year to date. Our target to grow again in 26-27 is about another 1,500, well, about another 800 members in that year and a few more. So we know there's more to do, is what I'm saying, and we will use any weapon we need to. If taster sessions is the right option, then we will absolutely do that.
And with the how are they distributed? Are they going? Because I was talking about disadvantaged groups, people that don't necessarily access leisure.
Yeah.
People with health problems. Are we channeling them through that as well as?
I think it's fair to say we could probably market that better to those particular cohorts and segments. Absolutely, yeah. And I'll take that away to have a look at.
Okay, thank you. Right, well, basically, I get the impression we all think there is progress being made, and we're grateful for that. And you've explained how that is, and carry on that. I'll make a few things. One is that when you said there was the climbing wall was a challenge, I immediately thought of gravity is the main challenge. Climbing wall. There may have been a loophole that you've discovered tonight, but perhaps you could,
I made a note, Chair.
mention just I was at Bedford swimming pool many years ago with my then girlfriend, sitting on the side and watched this guy, and he's got a baby in his arms there, and he slowly walked. That's the ladies' changing room, isn't it? Because ladies in those days, right? Ladies' changing room. And he came out red from top to toe, whereas before he went in, what a pale looking fella, but yeah, he's walked in on the ladies' changing room there. Just what I mentioned. It's not very interesting. So thank you for the reports there. Let's go on to our work programme next. So. Thank you for those. Yeah. I'll work on that story. Yeah. You've been there, but it's ridiculous. Changes colour like a chameleon. Right, okay, right. So our last item is the work programme. We'll lead on this one.
Thank you, Chair. So yes, it's just to note the work programme going forwards. We've got a column for the next meeting, which is on the 24th of March 2026, and then a final column for item take forward into the 2026-2027 municipal year. At the next meeting, we've currently got LWMTS business plan annual accounts, and we've got the annual review of the overview and scrutiny function. So again, I'll be sat at that side of the table presenting that to you all. And on the final page, it's just to confirm what briefing papers have been circulated. When this agenda pack was circulated last week, there'd only been one Money Matters briefing note. There has since been a second one that you'll have received in the last 7 days. It just isn't included on this because this was published before that was circulated.
Okay. Can I suggest that member? I'm a bit risky, but any ideas for scrutiny is useful to send to Will. But what we have to do is what we need to do is to keep an eye on the forward plan, cabinet forward plan, and respond to, or even before that, make comments to the cabinet. But there's any ideas as well for looking at, but you can process for scrutiny, so we're not wasting people's time and we're looking for outcomes and so on. And what I certainly would want on is, on every meeting, even if we've got nothing to report, is the local government review, because there must be something happening at each meeting after this, and then it's the slot is on there for us to actually deal with. I don't want to fill spaces because they're empty, but there's a space reserved there if needed, so if that's okay. Any questions at all on the work programme? Colin, please.
I'm sorry to raise that again.
No, it's
every single meeting and nothing happens. Empty homes policy. We spent an evening, I think it was over an hour, debating the empty homes policy, maybe 18 months, 2 years ago now. I can't remember quite how long ago. And we keep being promised that it will come back for review. Now, the staff member leading on that, James Johnson's gone off to Hammers to job over there. So I wonder if that's why it's stuck. But we had some really good ideas there. There are lots of empty properties across the district. We need to be taking a more proactive approach to dealing with those. And, you know, can we please push that this comes forward? Because our next meeting in March will be the last meeting in this cycle. And that's a whole cycle that's gone by without any review of that, without anything coming forward. And it suggests lack of action, which is quite worrying because it's a very important area.
So if we could have that on the next on the next meeting, and then it's up to officers and members to come along and explain if there is no action, or there might be them tempted to explain there isn't. Is there any reason?
Obviously, I can discuss that with the officer responsible for that report and see if that time scale seems feasible for them.
I mean, or fair point that council will make the length of time. Like getting you into trouble. With that, then.
The transport task group.
Oh yes, I was going to mention that. Yes.
Yes, an update on that. Is that met now?
No, it's not. I've suggested some dates, not many dates, but I've suggested some dates.
Yeah.
And my view is that the first one should look at the taxes today, this issue there. I'm not saying we have the answer. I'm not going to say any conclusions at all. It was just to listen to them and listen to the cabinet member and officers and see if there is anything we can help with that clear problem. There may not be. That's the thing. There may not be.
But that sounds. So you get some of the representatives from the taxi drivers to come in.
Yeah.
So that's positive. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, I've been in touch with one lobbying me, but responded and passed things on to the cabinet member previously to this. Another thing is the public transport, where in fact the scrutiny committee tomorrow at the county is looking at public transport, but it's a bit more, ephemeral, really, the way it's done. There's a report 2 years ago on public transport. There's a meeting tomorrow, scrutiny. We've got till April, but there's an opportunity for us to. I'm buzzing, sorry, not public transport specifically, but an opportunity for us to feed back into the county, who've got the responsibility at the moment for some transport, public buses in particular, and actually get our views known then, especially prior to local government review. So there's no two things there. The first one is the taxes, and then the second one And so that's what I'm hoping to do.
And who's on the group?
Well, it's myself, Sue Woodward, Andrew Rushton and Richard Henshaw, yeah. And I may have done a secret email to the leader saying, you know, there's a vacancy there, because with 2 Libs and 2 Labour on there, you know. But people have, I've put the emails out before.
Yeah,
I think for volunteer. Okay, yeah, sorry, I haven't to mention that. Thank you for. What are you looking out for? The meeting's finished then, obviously. Judging by the body language.
The battery on my laptop's gone.
Yeah. I need to have my dinner.
Group there doing that.